So here we're going to look at using PEE, or Point Evidence Explain, to answer some inference questions about poetry. Fantastic practice for 11 plus entrance exams and SATs in Year 6 as well. A reminder of what Point Evidence Explain means: it's a structure for answering longer multi-mark questions. Point refers to your statement answer. So whatever the question asks, you first of all start off with a sentence that is a statement that answers that. Then you want to include some evidence, so some quotes or examples from the original text that you're studying that supports your point. Finally, your explanation links those two things, so it describes how your evidence proves your point. We're going to practice 5 questions today using this structure. The poem we're going to use today is an Edith Nesbit poem called Child's Song in Spring. Here it is. Well, actually, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Edith Nesbit first. You may know her as the author of 5 Children and It, or The Railway Children. She was a turn-of-the-century author, an English writer, much enjoyed. Her stories often mixed magical elements with real-life situations. So in The 5 Children and It, for example, there are 5 children on a seaside holiday and they encounter a magical creature. But more than just being a writer, Edith was a campaigner for human rights. She wanted to make the world a better place for workers, women, and children. And she really believed that school should be fun and children should be helped to learn through creativity. And I think that spirit shows through in this poem. I'm going to read it to you now. The silver birch is a dainty lady. She wears a satin gown. The elm tree makes the old churchyard shady. She will not live in town. The English oak is a sturdy fellow. He gets his green coat late. The willow is smart in a suit of yellow, while brown the beech trees wait. Such a gay green gown God gives the larches, as green as he is good. The hazels hold up their arms for arches, when spring rides through the wood. The chestnut's proud, and the lilac's pretty, the poplar's gentle and tall, but the plane tree's kind to the poor dull city. I love him best of all. This would be a good moment to pause and reread the poem for yourself. Perhaps look up any vocabulary that you are unsure of, or if you're in a classroom situation, spend some time now discussing this poem as a class. Because I want to focus purely on Point Evidence Explain answers for inference questions today, I'm not going to spend time analysing the poem myself, but I really suggest that you do before moving forwards in this video. So, question number 1. What does the poet suggest about the silver birch's personality? You may like to pause here and have a go at answering this question yourself before I share a suggested answer with you. So press pause now if you would like to have a go before seeing my answer. Okay, so for the first 2 questions, I've broken my modelled answer down into the 3 parts: the point, the evidence, and the explanation. I don't recommend when you actually write answers yourself, particularly in a test situation, that you structure it in this way by saying, this is my point, this is my evidence. But for the first 2 questions, I've done it so that it's really clear exactly what I'm referring to. The final 3 questions, I will show you how to blend it into one paragraph. So for this question, my point, my statement that answers the question is, the poet suggests that the silver birch is elegant and delicate. My evidence that I've chosen to use is, the silver birch is a dainty lady. She wears a satin gown. My explanation is, the words dainty lady and satin gown give the tree human qualities that suggest grace and beauty, as if she is dressed up like someone going to a fancy event. This shows the poet sees the birch as refined and graceful. So you can see my point is a statement, a simple statement that answers my question. This helps the examiner understand what it is you're about to tell them. The evidence is it could be a whole sentence, it could be a couple of words, but it is written in the text and you have lifted it from the text, put it in speech marks to show that you have lifted it from the text, that this is not your own words. And the explanation tries to explain piece by piece how the evidence demonstrates the point that you made. Pause now if you'd like a little bit more time to read through that yourself. Otherwise, question 2 is coming up. How does the poet show the oak tree is strong and dependable? Again, pause now if you'd like to have a go by yourself first. So my point is the oak is shown to be robust and reliable. What I haven't done is just repeat the words used in the question, because that doesn't show that I understand what they mean. So I have used a synonym for strong, robust, and I've used a synonym for dependable, reliable, because this shows that I understand what the question has asked me. I've then chosen my evidence. The English oak is a sturdy fellow. My explanation is the word sturdy suggests physical strength and resilience. Describing the oak as a fellow makes it seem friendly and trustworthy, as though it's a dependable character in nature. So you can see that even in my explanation, I have tried to vary my vocabulary choices to show depth of understanding of the words that have been used in the question as well as in the text. Question 3. Why might the willow be described as smart in a suit of yellow? Now this time I would like you to pause and have a go yourself first. I am going to show you the answer for this one as one complete paragraph, but you can choose to answer it in the way that I wrote out the previous two to practice. So write your point sentence, then write your evidence sentence, and then write your explanation sentences. When you're ready to see my answer, press play. The poet implies the willow is fashionable and attractive in its seasonal colours. The word smart suggests stylishness, like someone who dresses well. Comparing the yellow leaves to a suit gives the impression of the tree being well dressed, showing the poet's admiration for how it looks in spring or autumn. So here you can see I've tried to blend my point, evidence, explain so that the paragraph has flow and isn't quite as stilted as in my first two examples. This is something you want to work towards. I suggest that when you first try to master point, evidence, explain, you do write it as 3 separate parts until you are confident that you are writing all 3 of those. Children often forget to write the explanation part, which is essential. So here I have tried to weave my evidence into my explanation sentences to give the paragraph a little more flow. Question 4. What does the poet imply about the plane tree's role in the city? Again, pause now, have a go yourself. Make sure you have got a point and your evidence and an explanation. The poet thinks the plane tree brings comfort and beauty to the city. In the text, the poet writes, "The plane tree's kind to the poor dull city. I love him best of all." The phrase "kind to the poor dull city" shows that the tree adds life and warmth to a place that might otherwise be grey and uninteresting. The poet's declaration of love suggests deep appreciation for its presence in urban life. You may have picked up different points, and you may have explained them in a different way. This is just one suggested answer. However, hopefully you had understood the gist of what the poet's views of the plane trees were and the hope and the joy that the plane tree brought to the city, even if you explained it in a different way. Check now that you have got a point and evidence and an explanation. And then we're going to move on to our final question. What can we infer about the poet's feelings toward nature? Have a go at answering this for yourself before seeing my modelled answer. You may find that your answer differs quite a lot from mine this time because this question is about the whole poem, so there is quite a broad range of evidence that you could choose to use. But pause now and have a go. Here's my suggested answer, but as I said, there are many different pieces of evidence you could use to answer this question. The poet has a deep admiration and affection for nature. She uses personification like the chestnut's proud and the lilac's pretty, and spring rides through the wood. Giving the trees human traits shows the poet sees them as characters with personality and charm. This creative language reflects a joyful and loving relationship with the natural world. Hopefully, again, you can see another example of how I've weaved the evidence with the explanation, but I have always begun the answer with a statement, and that's very important so that the examiner can navigate your answer. They know what you're going to say, and they can then understand how you have explained that. Thank you for working through this with me. Please do share this with others that you think might find it useful, and subscribe. Everything you can do to show me that this is interesting to you encourages me to make more videos.